Here we go, we're all finished basically. I'd say it took about 14 minutes from start of installation to getting to all this mumbo jumbo where it's asking you home network name and the serial number and all that kind of crap. So definitely faster than installing it on a single drive, although not as quite as fast as I would like it to be. Part of that's because you can only decompress files so fast no matter how many drives you have. Okay, so here's our HD tune on our new RAID0 boot drive. This has got our OS on it and everything. As you can see, it's 1200 gigabyte, just about. That's what the graph looks like. And the numbers. We have transfer rates, minimum of 105.1 megabytes a second, maximum of 220.2 megabytes a second, and an all-out average of 175.2 megabytes a second across the board. Access time hovers at around 15.1 milliseconds. Burst rate is 1232.6 megabytes a second, and CPU usage, of course, is at negative 1.0. It's some issue with HD tune. I don't know what the actual CPU usage is, but I'm pretty sure it's around 1 or 2%. Nothing significant. So, there's our graphs for comparison. I'll try and put them side by side eventually through the magic of camera work. Well, hello everybody. Today is, well, I guess it's now officially Wednesday, April 21st, 2010. In fact, I think it's about 2 o'clock in the morning. 1:30. And Operation RAID went just as expected. No problems whatsoever. And my beast of a machine, instead of having 3 separate Western Digital 640 gigabyte AAKS drives, I now have 2 of them rated together in a RAID0 array, and I have a nice fresh installation of Windows 7 with the proper drivers and all that. Now what I'm going to show you guys, what I've already shown you guys, I guess, probably, depending on how I edit these videos together, are just basically HD tune benchmark numbers. And you'll see that the numbers are pretty much doubled across the board as far as read speed, write speed, random read speed, random write speed. About the only thing that really surprised me is burst transfer rates. Burst transfer rates went up like tenfold. Instead of being like 120 megabytes a second like they were with one drive, they went up to something like 1200 megabytes a second. And this is not a fluke. This is reproducible every single time I run HD tune. You know, maybe there's something staring me right in the face, a reason for that. You know, I would expect that number to increase somewhat with the drives striped in a RAID0 array, but tenfold? My goodness. So basically I'll show you the benchmarks. I took video while I was doing the before benchmark and after benchmark in HD tune. I also took video that I'm not going to include in this because it just ended up being a waste of time, really. And what I did was put about 20 different programs and games in the startup menu, and rebooted the computer and basically let the camera roll to see how long it would take for all of these programs to start up. And I did this before I did the RAID0 array, and then I installed the same programs and put them in the startup menu the same way after I did the RAID0 array, and it ended up being more of a pain in the ass than it was worth, because half of these programs end up asking you questions on the first run, and like OpenOffice does a whole damn survey before you can start it for the first time. Photoshop wants you to know that it's using graphical acceleration, and pops up a box and won't let you do anything for the first time through. And it just ended up being a lot more trouble than it's worth. And that's not really my style anyway, is to give hardcore hard numbers benchmarks. I've never been that way. Whenever I'm doing a review on a product, I'll generally run one or two benchmarks that spit out a number or a series of numbers, but when it comes right down to it, I'd rather give you just the look and feel and my general experience coming out of my own mouth. And I have to say, so far, it's definitely faster. It feels kind of weird having a 1.2 terabyte drive all of a sudden. You gotta remember, this is two 640 gig Western Digital AAKS, which eventually were renamed to the Black Edition drives. They have a very high platter density because they use two 320 gigabyte platters a piece, and so they were pretty damn fast to begin with. So I wasn't expecting anything revolutionary, and nor that I get anything revolutionary. But I can tell you that some of my more heavily used applications, like Sony Vegas, for one. Sony Vegas is famous for taking a long ass time to load. Before it would take about 15 seconds to load. Here it takes about 6 or 7 seconds with the new RAID0 setup. And I expect that number to improve as Windows does its whole thing where it rearranges files based on your access patterns and things like that. Windows 7 is really good at that. So I expect that number to even get better over time. Same deal with Photoshop. It used to be Photoshop CS4 would take about, 15 seconds before it would be ready to use on my quad-core, overclocked quad-core Q9450. Well, now it's about ready in about 6 seconds. So definitely a noticeable improvement and a positive improvement. Overall, the system feels much snappier, and again, I expect that to get better over time as Windows 7 rearranges the files based on my access, on my usage patterns. For those of you who didn't know, that's one of the things that Windows 7 does behind the scenes. That's why no matter how much RAM you have, for the first week or so that you have Windows 7 installed, you're always going to see your hard drive light going, and you're always going to hear your hard drives accessing, because behind the scenes Windows 7 is rearranging files based on what you use the most, so that they'll load faster. It puts the files you use the most, programs, whatever, near the center of the drive, so that they'll load faster for you. So, overall, I have to say it's a good deal. I haven't had any problems. Had zero problems setting up the RAID array. Had zero problems once I got the right driver. I had zero problems installing Windows. In fact, you can install Windows 7 with no driver, because Windows 7 has built-in Intel RAID drivers. Basically, this was just an experiment for me. I just wanted to see what it was like, because believe it or not, uber geek that I am, been in the computer business for 20 years, I've never set up a RAID system, a RAID array for myself, for my own personal use. I've done it, several times for clients, but never for my own personal use. So I just figured, what the hell.